Following the return of the iconic villains in No Way Home movie, the question arises, who is the best villain in the Spider-Man universe? In total, there are 11 villains. It makes sense to compare all of them by ranking them from worst to best. The main problem turned out to be the Amazing Spider-Man. What does Andrew have to do with villains? It's quite simple. My point is that the script is really bad. Let's move on to the facts. The lowest score goes to Rhino. His appearance is similar to the cartoon as much as possible. Many questions arise after that. Who is he? What is his mission? His unclear shouts are all we can understand.
Never! I crush, so I kill you! I destroy!
During the whole movie, there's no explanation of who this character is. Based on his behavior, we can assume that he is a man who has lost his mind. He's insane and completely non-threatening since Spider-Man stripes his underwear off. All we got was slurred shouts. The same can be said about Lizard. The focus on the struggle of Peter and the Lizard. At the end of the movie, we are only interested in Gwen Stacy's father. In No Way Home movie, the actor did not act, and his character was just for numbers. The next villain who was a mistake in the script was Venom. Sam Raimi said he didn't want to include him in the movie, but the producers were insistent. To focus on the monster, they just point to us. Hey look, it's Topher Grace. These are the villains I added to the blacklist, because there's no point in comparing them to the others. When you think of a villain from Spider-Man movies, the first one that comes to mind is Green Goblin. Which one is the best of the three? I guess Willem Dafoe. Dane DeHaan looks great, but his pathetic scene in Amazing Spider-Man is piss poor. He arrives at the end of the movie and is immediately knocked out. Franco acted decently in his role. His intriguing relationship with Peter impressed me, but after No Way Home movie, Dafoe became a legend. So among Green Goblins, he is the best. Accordingly, both goblins go to the blacklist, but which of the remaining 6 is better? We will judge by the following criteria: strength, goal, ability. Strength. In my opinion, one of the strongest villains is Dr. Octopus. The first thing that comes to mind is how hard it was for Peter to face him. The second thing is how easily he picks up and throws the car. Let's assume that Octavius used 5% of his powers. And for 100%, let's consider how he opened the bank safe. We get a simple example. 3,000 times 20, and that equals approximately 60,000 pounds. Electro can produce up to 1 million volts. When he gets a chance to kill 2 Spider-Men, his attacks have no effect at all. We assume that he hasn't used his power to the maximum. If his power were at its peak, he could kill Spider-Man in a moment. What about Mysterio's power? The only power he has is the power of incredible acting. Only one villain brings Peter almost to the brink of death 2 times. In the first movie, Green Goblin holds the wagon with one hand. It weighed over 1 ton. In addition, in the second hand, he was holding MJ, which, judging by the footage, weighed as much as the wagon because she started to struggle. In No Way Home, Goblin breaks down a concrete wall with Spider-Man. It wasn't enough for him to break one wall. After that, Tom fell 3 more times in a row. I think that scene deserves an Oscar. However, the Vulture can lift a car which is about 1 ton. If this is his near maximum, then for Dr. Octopus, that is only 5% of his strength. The Vulture's suit is the main source of power that allows him to easily cut through the roofs of cars and planes. His wings and claws are so strong that he was able to stay on top of the plane flying at 500 kilometers per hour. The last villain to be mentioned is the Sandman. His strength depends on the grains of sand. Accordingly, the more there are, the stronger he is. A good example is when he turned into a giant in Spider-Man 3. There are a few power deeds in the movie, so it's hard to gauge. But I think his strength is similar to the strength of Electro and Dr. Octopus. That's why the 3 of them get 9 points each. The lowest score gets Mysterio, 1 point. Green Goblin gets 8 points, and Vulture gets 6 points. Goal. Let's start with Mysterio. Jake Gyllenhaal, the actor, played his role really well. He can be charismatic as Tony Stark and also act as a thief. It really takes the focus away from his real plans. The problem is that he has some sort of issues with Stark. The whole movie is based on revenging him. And what's important? What's his ultimate goal? Maybe he wants to save the world from false threats, but when the real threat comes, what will he do? That is, his purpose and plans are quite fuzzy. Unlike Mysterio, Vulture has a precise plan to ensure the well-being of his family. However, because of the threat of losing his business, he turns into an unstable monster. Sandman has a goal. He wants to help his sick daughter and return to her, except that his goal gets fuzzy when he starts cooperating with other villains. In Spider-Man 3, he cooperates with Venom. This confuses me. The same can be said of No Way Home movie. We can't figure out which side he's on and what his ultimate goal is, which is not the case with Dr. Octopus. We understand that he is a scientist with good intentions about his inventions, but a chip malfunction causes him to lose control and turn into a villain. The spectator can see his whole story, realizing the character's goal culminating at the end of the film when Dr. Dr. Octopus overcomes himself by drowning his invention for the good of society. He dies saying, "I'm not a monster." We would like to mention Green Goblin. At first glance, one could say that his main goal is to become the main villain of New York, but Spider-Man stands between him and his goal. Thereafter, everyone, even a child, understands that Norman wants to get rid of Spider-Man. As a result, most people believe that Green Goblin is the major villain for Spider-Man. And the last one left is Electro. In Amazing Spider-Man, his motives are not clear. Because of his past pain, he proves to everyone that he cannot be stopped now. The changes in No Way Home better show the villain's purpose. He needs power so that people will know who he really is and how powerful he is. In this round, Green Goblin gets the highest score of 9. The lowest score goes to Mysterio with 2. Dr. Octopus and Vulture get 8 each. Sandman gets 4 and Electro gets 6. Ability. I would like to mention at once the favorites in this round. Sandman can do anything he wants. His only weakness is water, but it doesn't keep him for long. It's the same with the cement. He's just in a coma for a while. That is, he is practically immortal. In the Goblin's box, there's equipment that gives him extra powers. One thing no one can match is his rage. He literally does not want to stop. Finally, Mysterio gets a chance to get a high score. Due to his own illusion, he can manipulate people. As an example, Peter gave him Stark's glasses. Electro is somewhat like Mysterio, just with real abilities. He can fly with electricity. He can become invertebrate every time he attacks. The interesting thing was that he could collaborate with the Sandman. It was a really effective cooperation, which made a reference to the Sinister Six. The Vulture's abilities are fairly limited. He can do as much as the suit allows. The alien remnants help to have serious weapons. The suit with the wings is bulletproof, so it is his protection. In my opinion, there are 2 criteria in which Doctor surpasses everyone. These are intelligence and tentacles. Octopus can easily create any invention. In the movie, we see that he immediately grasps the technology of Peter's suit. He also takes Stark's invention with him. His tentacles allow both long and short type speed. He can easily catch things in both long and short distances. As a result, Electro and Sandman got 9 points each. Mysterio gets 8 points, and the trio of Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and Vulture gets 7 points. At this point, I wanted to end the comparison and summarize, but I would like to add one more category as a bonus. It's called intrigue. Wait, no, it's called intrigue and emotions. Every spectator during the movie experiences an emotion and intrigue coming from the villain. Let's see who does it best. Let's start with the most obvious, namely Mysterio. As I said before, the actor played his role well. However, the script is extremely obvious. Any jerk surfing the internet will figure out who Mysterio really is. His exact opposite is the legendary Green Goblin, played by Willem Dafoe. He makes such a good parallel between Norman and Goblin. The best moment that characterizes it is when Osborn looks in the mirror where he sees the opposite personality. We can see the same thing in No Way Home, that Norman Osborn's mind wants to do the right and safe things, but the Green Goblin serum doesn't allow that, so he constantly wants to see Peter suffer. Interesting fact, the MCU spent years making Thanos into the ultimate villain. Dafoe, however, just needed one cameo to topple Thanos from his throne. Michael Keaton reminds me of Willem Dafoe. In the moment when Peter visits his daughter, he seems to be a great dad with cool jokes, but when it turns out that the teenager in the back of the car is Spider-Man, who is threatening his business, a villain is immediately triggered, ready to do whatever it takes to stop Parker. Electro and Sandman are quite intriguing, especially Max taking Tony Stark's reactor and making us emotional about the new suit. However, the scene where Octopus takes the reactor away from Electro places him among the more important villains. It is enough to say that an entire movie, No Way Home, makes it impossible to remain indifferent to the Doctor. The most interesting moment is when Pitt repairs the chip. Accordingly, he takes the opposite side, and now we are watching not a villain, but a superhero. There are 2 intriguing moments in the final battle, when we don't know if he will help Spider-Man. Whoa, who's the best Spider-Man? You can find it in my video. The hint is already at the top. And the second moment, when Tobey Maguire takes off his mask and he is so happy to see him. At this point, I wanted to summarize the result. In many minds remains Willem Dafoe, who deserves 10 points. Right after him, Dr. Octopus gets 9 points, and Vulture gets 8 points. Electro gets 4 points, while Mysterio and Sandman gets 3 points each. To summarize, we got a very interesting result. Mysterio got a total of 18 points, Sandman 25 points. Now the best part. 4th place goes to Electro with 28 points. Vulture is in 3rd place with a margin of 1 point. Attention, the difference between them is again 1 point between 33 and 34. Silver in our battle gets Dr. Octopus. Accordingly, the winner is Green Goblin. Make your own rating in the comments. Do you agree with us?